Hey, everybody, and welcome to the review for Prey. Now, this movie is something that I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. And I saw the trailer, and originally when they announced the movie, I had no idea, like a lot of people, that this was going to be a movie with the Predator in it, right? From what they showed, it was very cryptic from the very first trailer that went out, and then as time went on, it was like, well, this is a Prey or a Predator movie. That's weird, and the fact that it's also set, back in the 1700s. This is, of course, a telling of one of the first times that a predator came to Earth and the first hunt that they did here. And I will say right off the bat, it is a good movie. It's very fun. It is very entertaining. There are a lot of things that I like about it. And I will also say that I wish this was a big theatrical release because I think my enjoyment of it would have been much better. Now, I started the movie last night. I started it really late because I couldn't sleep, and then I started getting tired finally, like 1:30 in the morning or something like that, and decided, okay, I'm gonna wait till today, to finish watching the movie. And I'm glad that I did because I started it on my phone, which I shouldn't have done. It was fine for the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then for the rest of it, watched it on the big TV. But even watching it on that, I wish I had seen this on a big screen. I think that the movie is well acted. I like the setting that they chose. It was very beautifully shot. The landscapes were fantastic, and I had a hard time kind of placing exactly where the movie was being represented in, right? Like where it was actually shot. Like it feels like it was shot in like Washington, but it probably was shot overseas. It's just like I said, the landscape is absolutely beautiful. Acting is well done for the most part. There are a couple people that are just kind of okay for the most part, but that's not what you come to these movies for. And honestly, this movie was a lot better than the last Predator movie that was done, which I did like as well. And not a lot of people like that movie, but I mean, I kind of get it why people didn't like it, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And for the things that I liked this Predator movie for, I liked that Predator movie for. But that one was definitely a lot more jokey, right? They were trying to really get that 80s feel back into the Predator movie, trying to get some of that like weird, not like nostalgic humor mixed in with all the cool Predator stuff. And the only thing I didn't like about that one was that, oh, there are two Predators. And yeah, we're gonna go with that, with the things that go on here. Like the last one kind of had that feel of Predator versus Alien when, the Predator's like, hey, human, it's time for us to suit up together and we need to destroy the alien together. Here, use this as a shield, and here, take this spear and then fight with me. And then that movie's terrible. But the negative things I will say about this movie is that it feels a little short, like for what it is. I mean, it's got a good runtime for this movie, and I think that a lot of the negatives I kind of look at are the things that people will be sour about when they come to this movie, which is really ridiculous. Like the fact that it's, a female-led protagonist, and she does sometimes seem like she's got a little bit of the Mary Sue type of thing going on here, where she's a little more powerful than maybe she should be. But then there's a lot to talk about, and when it comes to her and her not being like super strong either. I mean, she gets the crap beat out of her quite a bit, but when it comes down to the final fight with the Predator, like she's all of a sudden everything that she's learned, she now has like, basically uses everything against him. And I mean, you kind of know where things are going to go when you're coming into this type of Predator movie. It's not like to say like a big spoiler that she's going to win because she's going to win. But at the same time, I don't think that she's necessarily that type of character. And there's going to be a couple of spoilers that are in this. I'm going to try to be less spoiler as possible, and not like go through the whole movie and do the whole thing on it. But there's a couple points that I do want to talk about that may be considered spoilers while you're if you haven't seen the movie. Now, it's on Hulu, which is great, right? And when Hulu does these big movie review, like not reviews, but these big movie like premieres on it, you really only get a commercial in the beginning and they don't break it up. Unlike when you're watching the other movies, if you're watching commercial-filled Hulu, you're going to get a couple of times where you're going to get interrupted and there's going to be a commercial or two. So I like it when they do this. It's so much better. And there's other movies I want to do in there, but they're hard for the podcast. I originally thought I'm going to do this for the podcast. And then after watching it, I'm like, I'm not going to do this for the podcast not because it's a good movie, but because I just feel that this is the better way to talk about it. I don't want to go into a lot of it, and the fact that it's brand new. There's a lot of people, like a movie like Death Note. When I did that one, it's really, really tough to do for the podcast because I literally have to watch it the moment that I get home on Friday, get all the notes, then start doing all the, the audio stuff. And sometimes I can't enjoy the movies as much as I would. And I really wanted to sit back and just kind of enjoy it if it was a good movie. If it was a bad movie, then I would have thought about, okay, I can go back through this movie again, and then I can do everything that I need to do. Like, I feel like maybe I'm going to miss something because of what they're trying to do. Now, one of the cool things that they did do with this movie, if you choose to do it, I believe you can watch it in the native audio. And that's one of the things I didn't like, not the native audio part, but what I didn't like is that there are a couple times where different languages were used, and I wish that there would have been subtitles so that I could understand what the hell's going on. And I turned on the subtitles at one point because I thought, well, maybe I just have them off, and I did. But then when I was watching it, it didn't put the subtitles in English for the person speaking a different language. I believe French is spoken in the movie, but I did get to kind of understand a little bit better of what they're saying, but I didn't want to watch the rest of the movie with English subtitles for an English movie. It's just not what I wanted to do, so I turned them back off. And I think that there should have been something, right? But at the same time, I also find it kind of cool because it keeps you in the dark of what's going on, and it just like the character doesn't understand them and doesn't know what they're saying, you don't understand what they're saying. So, like, I'm 50-50 on it. I want to know what's going on, and at least looking at the French that was there, I recognized a couple words that I was like, oh, okay, that's what they're meaning to say. And, but I couldn't quite understand what they were saying when they were speaking it. So that's where I was like, then the subtitles definitely do help, right, in that regard. But it's first world problems switching subtitles on and off while you're trying to watch a movie so that you can maybe pick up a word that you know from a foreign language so that you can understand what they're trying to say. But it's not really that important of what's going on. The Predator design for this movie is really fucking cool. It is fantastic. And what I love is that it has a Native American feel to it as well, right? The way the skin tone is, the way the hair's done, how kind of like a little more sleek and like not straightforward, but it's not like this huge hulking buff predator. It's more like a faster, it's still muscly or however you want to say it, but it's not like that person or that the predator itself is this incredible beast. Right? Like you've seen in the other ones. Basically, like when you look at the original Predator, him and Arnold are kind of the same. I mean, he's a little slimmed down compared to Arnold, but he's still like big, wide-shouldered, muscly buffness that's got going on here. I can't say muscly for some reason because I feel like I'm going to talk like Popeye. But nonetheless, here the design is very influenced by the Native American characters that you see in this movie. Now, of course, there's a lot of talk in the movie where the male characters are very like, oh, she can't be a hunter, she can't do this, and yada, 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 that type of bullshit, and then she proves them wrong. That stuff, I mean, it was a given for what it was, but I know that's going to turn some people off. I don't know why it would, considering that that's always been in movies, that's always been in, stories, especially when you have a strong female lead. And it's one of those things where if you're going to complain about that, you're going to complain about this small female figure who is an excellent fucking hunter. It proves that she is wise. She knows medicine. She understands the way everything is. And even like her brother says at one point, that's what you're really good at. Like, maybe she doesn't have the physical physique to do like the fighting, to like fight against him. And, you know, you're not an Arnold or anybody else that's like big and buff, but she's got the mental capacity to beat the Predator. And that's always what it's been, right? Is that you have to have some type of mental capacity to beat the Predator, because brute force is just not going to win you the fight. Even with, you know, Arnold back in the original Predator, they tried to brute force him, and the way that he ended up, you know, beating the Predator is by playing its game and figuring out how it works. And then when he figured out how it worked, he was able to beat him, even though it was using some brute force. That was, you know, that wasn't the real way that he was able to kill the Predator. So when it comes to this, like, I buy it, you know, and everything with her journey and going on, I totally buy it. Now, the other negative thing I have is some of the CGI in this movie is terrible. The bear that she finds and how it chases her, how it chases the dog, and how, you know, it gets her when she goes into the beaver dam. Like, that stuff, it doesn't look the best. But it doesn't deter from the movie at the same time. And that would be one of the things like, oh, well, I'm not going to have that on the big screen, because if you look at that big, that might not look so good. But then the scene where the Predator picks up the bear after beating the shit out of it, and like, I was expecting him to like raise it up and just snap it in half, and then you have all the blood, but it breaks enough so the blood pours all over the Predator, and that's how you get a really good look at it right away. And I think that was kind of like well worth it in terms of what it ultimately did, so that the CGI of the animal doesn't necessarily equal, you know, bad look later on in the film. Especially, like I said, like, you can tell that most of the work went into the Predator rather than going into the other stuff. Because there's even a scene with a wolf where he's hunting the wolf. And the wolf doesn't look that bad, but it's still a little wonky. And I couldn't quite tell if the rabbits were also CGI. It seemed like the only thing that wasn't was the dog. When it came to all the other animals that were used in this movie, and I think maybe an eagle in the air and stuff like that. But it still is it still in some of those areas falls a little short for what it does. I like too at the beginning that you actually see the Predator ship in the sky when they're dropping off the Predator for the first run, you know, and putting him on the planet and everything like that. So there isn't anything that's like mysterious about it. You know that they're landing here. You know what they're doing. It's, you know, actually thinking about it, it's kind of like mixed whether or not I think that it's a worthwhile thing to have. At the same time that, you know, maybe they could have done it a little differently for what it is, but it makes sense in terms of the world. It is a little slow to get going, but when it finally does get going, it just never stops. Everything is wild. You know, her chasing down the bear and then running into the Predator for the first time. And there's one of the scenes where you get towards like, and I like the mask that the Predator wears is not the standard like mask that you see for most of the Predators. It's more like a bone mask, which I thought was really cool. Like, everything kind of relates to the time period, the way that he looks, the tools that he uses, and there are a couple of silly things, you know, because it's still got its like enhancements and everything like that. It's not like it's purely like, oh, he's coming to the planet and he's just wearing bone everything, and there is no technology that's in there, even though they're traveling on a spaceship. No. I think they're designing it to look like it kind of fits the world that they're using for this movie. The violence is on point in the beginning. Like, there are a couple of things that happened and it was all off screen. And I'm like, oh, why are we doing this? Like, totally off screen. And then like, it just goes ham, like really, really fucking hard. And there are limbs flying off. You see two sets of chopped off legs up close, which one of them I like squirmish so bad because a mouse goes and takes a bite out of the leg. And I was like, oh my God, that is terrifying. And like, whenever it comes to like bodily injuries along those lines, when you see him in film, like, good gore in film doesn't bother me unless it looks like super ultra realistic, which a lot of movies it doesn't, and sometimes they do. But even sometimes when they do, it still like doesn't bother me so much as like real life gore, because I know that's real and this is fake. But those types of things, like, you know, things going through fingers or going through feet or toes, or like in this case an animal eating the piece of a leg that has been chopped off, like all those things, like they make me squirm for some reason, and this one actually got me. And the setup to the final fight is good, but the big like middle battle where you actually see how badass this predator is so fucking cool that I was just like smiling the time. And this is what you want. That's the biggest thing I can say from this film, is where they went, is that what missed the mark, I think, on the last Predator movie was that it tried to give people what it thought they wanted, not exactly what you wanted. And here I feel like what I wanted, I got out of this movie. Right? What I expected from a Predator movie. I expected a Predator, right? To go and do it and do the hunt, and to be able to watch the hunt go down, which I got to do. And I got to see both sides of the hunt, because the whole thing, they mentioned something in the beginning of the movie, because she wants to be a hunter, right? And she has to take this trial, and the trial is about hunting that hunts you, right? And becoming victorious out of it. And of course, you know, that's an analogy for what the predator does. And so she's going to end up having to hunt the predator that's hunting her, you know, set it up and really kind of everything that she learns from what she's done before. Because of course she thinks that she's like this grand, you know, hunter, but she's not ready for it. Even though, you know, there's a scene with the brother, and the brother like kind of like becomes victorious after hunting this lion that supposedly went after, you know, it's a mountain lion that went after one of the people, you know, from their tribe. And, you know, she's up there, and eventually it catches her. Like, she's up there with the dude that's been like going after her, and then he gets pulled down by the lion. At least you think it's the lion. It might actually be the predator that actually gets him. But then she's facing it, and she's being backed into the corner by it, and then, you know, she falls off, but when she does, she actually manages to hurt it, and then the brother carries her all the way back to the village, and then he reprimands her, and, you know, later on, he reveals that, well, without her help and what she did, you know, she just couldn't finish the job, right? She had all the skills to do it, but she just didn't either have the confidence in herself to finish the job, or, you know, like they were saying, you're just not strong enough to finish the job. And I think it's more about the confidence in finishing it rather than the actual strength in doing it, because the way that she did it was the right way to do it, and she should have finished it, but because she wasn't confident in her spear, she couldn't fully kill the lion. It backed her into a corner instead of her just kind of going, you know, she knows she's got it, and she just needs to go after it. And, you know, again, there's just a lot of that back and forth where, you know, oh, you're just not strong enough. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, you should be back in the village with the medicine, doing the cooking and all that stuff. There's a lot of that type of thing, but it makes sense for the time period, because, you know, I don't think that you necessarily see that today, because, and even throughout history, these stories have fucking existed where this strong female protagonist that everybody thinks can't do whatever they're told that they can't do, she comes out and does it, because women have always been told that, right? And it's changed over the years, and there always have been female writers, there all have been male writers, there have always been plays, movies, TV shows, whatever it's been, that are, you know, I'm not saying their sole purpose is to empower women, but they're a story about women gaining empowerment. And you can go back to Alien, right? You have a badass lead, and she gets empowered after it, and everybody fucking loves, you know, Ripley. But when you do this stuff nowadays, it's like people, I've already gone off on the whole woke thing before, but people just don't really, they go against their, what they think it should be and what they think that people are trying to put forward. But these stories have always fucking been there. You know, horror movies have always fucking been there. And it's when they go way over the top and they specifically push that motive that it's negative, and it gets negative feeling from both sides of the fucking coin. But when you have this movie should not be in that category, period. period. It's not pushing anything. It is telling a good story of somebody that wants to be a hunter, and it doesn't matter. You could replace the male or female character for whatever you want to do, and is told they can't do it, but their way of doing things is what ultimately wins in the end, right? And so if you can't just kind of see that, then you kind of miss a lot of the points the movie is trying to push, or not necessarily push. Push is a bad word, but present to the viewer. So overall, this is a really solid movie, and I would definitely give this a 4 out of 5 wolf skulls. I mean, it's fun, it's entertaining. It's not. It doesn't reach that 5 out of 5. And the reason I give it a 4 out of 5 is because it went above my expectations. From the trailers and everything, I thought this would be a good movie. I didn't think it would be a great movie. I didn't think it would be a bad movie. And if it was bad, it would be because they couldn't handle what they were trying to do. But because it's so simplistic in the way that it does its plot, and it goes back almost to the original Predator, that this movie exceeds what it's trying to do. And yeah, there's a couple of scenes that are a little wonky. There's some of the CGI, like I said, that's a little wonky. But when it comes to the badass moments in this movie, they are fucking badass. Even the fight between her and the Predator is a great spectacle, right? And even I was like, oh yeah, she's using this because she remembered that. And she's using this because she remembered doing this and she failed at doing this the first time. So she's learning from her mistakes. And like, it's cool because you get to see her character fucking grow through the whole thing. Every time she fails at doing something, she knows why she failed and she moves forward with it. Like, that stuff's really fucking cool. And it's what helps her actually finish everything at the end, because she even, like, at one point, and this is just a little spoiler from but I like the little scene that she has here. She gets a gun, right, from a guy that gets his leg chopped off, and is the only guy from the settlers, or whatever you want to call them, the other poachers that are out there hunting the buffalo. And he's like, medicine. If you save me, then I will teach you, how to use my gun. I will give you my gun and I'll teach you how to use it. And she, she learns like what she shouldn't do with the gun, and then the gun is not exactly what she needs. Like, she uses it to further the final battle, but she knows that she can't be reliant on it. It's just, I've got like one chance with this thing, and this is what I need to do. And she even learns how to use like the tech of the Predator. It's not like she knows how to use it, but she sees things. It's not like I'm just going to automatically grab his gun and I know exactly what his gun does. But she learns from the battles with the Predator, like, what does what? How does it do it? Not how to use it, but she knows this thing does this, and I can maybe use this against the Predator. So it's like I said, it's a really good movie. It has really good arcs for the characters. It has learning moments for all of the characters. I really like that, it uses primarily, I think everybody, for all the Native Americans, they all have some type of connection to, Native American tribes, as part of their background. There's really like no bad acting. There's mediocre acting, and some of it's a little bit like, okay, you can tell they're a little raw in the way that they do it and the delivery, but they're not important enough characters to be like, oh, he's there all the time or she's there all the time, and this is ruining the movie. They're only in there for like a little bit, and you could tell that they're not natural actors, but they're being used with this. And then you have two good leads in the brother and the sister. Great fucking leads for the movie. And, I really like the actress that plays our main heroine. She does a fantastic job in this movie. And, I just think that it's worth your watch. So, that's it for this episode, or this, review that I have here. Part of me wishes I had done the podcast on it, but I think this is the right choice to do, is to do it this way instead. So, But make sure that you do check out the latest episode of the podcast. I did one episode on Annabelle. Go ahead and follow me out there on Twitch if you want to watch any of the gameplay things that I've got going on. I think we're going to be doing... there's a couple of different games. There's a new release coming out this week that I really am excited for. I played the demo of it. It's called Cult of the Lamb. It comes out on the 11th. So I'll probably be playing it on stream the following weekend. the following week, or I might even try to do like a stream of my own to just play it for a little bit to get it started before we get into all the other stuff. Besides that, make sure to follow the socials. All the links are below. And of course, if you can, donate to Kids Rock Cancer because it's a great charity. So thank you guys for watching. We'll definitely catch you next time on another one of these little video reviews, trying to get them in a little more often than I had been. And thank you for a bunch of the new subscribers. A bunch of people recently subscribed. I really appreciate it. Helps me grow the channel. Trying to get to at least 100 so I can get my own little URL to put out there. We'll definitely see you next time. So take care of yourselves and each other.